Sabrina's 70s comic issue 21. Sabrina tells Harvey she loves carnivals, and Harvey wants to win her some prizes. I wonder if he'll fail because he's a klutz in this comic. The other guy does better, and he does better at the game afterwards too, and tells Sabrina that she should be with him instead. Sabrina's reasonable enough to tell Harvey he's just wasting his money on these rigged games. And the guy running the game encourages Harvey to keep playing. Suddenly, the unlikable jerk slips that man some money, and he presses something with his foot, revealing that he can control this thing. Is that accurate? It makes sense that they'd rig the games to avoid running out of prizes. But why would he do what he wants just because he gives him some money? I guess he'd be able to call the police on him for taking his money, so he has to do him his favor. So after Harvey fails at the hammer game, Sabrina uses magic to make Harvey win at it, and then she makes him win the shooting game. She's smart enough to ask what they're gonna do with all these stuffed animals. Give them to orphans? It sure is convenient that right away, a bus shows up loading some kids, and Harvey's called wonderful for giving all the prizes to them. So Sabrina made up for the cheating at the game. Oh, and they're literally orphans. I thought they were subverting my expectations by having them simply be regular school children. Maybe it would have been better writing if they had to search for an orphanage instead of a bus conveniently showing up at the carnival. In the next story, we see a rain cloud over a girl's head, as Sabrina says that if she wants to go out with Harvey, she's not going to be upset. And then a kid splashes Charlene with water. Obviously the rain cloud has to be magical, so wouldn't that mean that Sabrina is upset with her? Out of nowhere, Charlene says she's not interested in Harvey anymore, and Sabrina smugly smiles about it, not seeming very surprised. It makes sense that she'd get worried and superstitious because it started raining on her and nobody else right when she mentioned Harvey. So we see a darker side of Sabrina that makes enough sense to be worth seeing. Charlene hopes she'll never see Harvey again, and wishes that she had some wood to knock on. The chain of the old wooden sign breaks off in front of her and she screams, and tells Harvey to stay away from her. Wouldn't she be afraid of Sabrina instead? She only got bad luck after she talked to her. Then another woman winks at Harvey, and he's clearly tempted by her because he stammers, so Sabrina used her magic to try to keep Harvey around, even though he's not only a stupid klutz, but is also tempted to move on from her the minute someone prettier comes along. So the other woman gets splashed with garbage and stinks. And the story ends with Sabrina using magic to get rid of any other girls in her way, which goes a bit too far. Before this, she was justified and used her magic for a relatable reason. Now she's no better than Hilda. At least keep her character consistent. Either she's too good for the witches to handle and hates being a witch, or she's like this. I'm willing to accept one or the other, they both make sense. But it doesn't make sense for Harvey to all of a sudden be a guy who's desperate to cheat on her. And he doesn't even explain that it's because he's tired of dealing with Hilda. That would make sense. It gets scary when you consider that Sabrina could keep doing this for the rest of her life. In the comedy page, Hilda wants to concoct something that'll drive people wild. And the story ends with Sabrina saying it's already been done and it's called Summer Reruns. Well, that was a really weak jab. There's way worse things than those. In the next story, Sabrina says a girl named Ophelia is upset. Ophelia is the main character from the 70s cartoon show. So Sabrina zaps up a sign in front of the movie theater, making it say Ophelia is the greatest, which cheers her up. So why doesn't anyone react to the zap sound effect her magic makes? I know a witch heard it in a previous story. Maybe only witches can hear zaps? Maybe there's a worldwide spell to make sure witches know whenever a spell's cast near them? In the next story, Della's complaining about Sabrina being just like the other teenagers. Sabrina really is used to Della if she calls the head witch Deli Baby. And considering that Della didn't take away her powers or anything after all this time, it makes sense that she completely stopped being intimidated by her. At least Enchantress got the respect she deserved. The writer really exaggerates Sabrina's slang talking just for the sake of a joke, but it's cringeworthy, going on way too long. Normally I'm fine with her slang. It's unique and understandable enough. It's certainly not unacceptable. It'd be stupid to think that the 70s slang ruins the comic, especially the 70s fashion. But Sabrina doing this would only make sense if she was intentionally trying to screw with Stella. Sabrina ignores Stella saying no when she's asked what she wants, and she zaps up a cream pie for Hilda. Stella's worried about gaining fat, that she could just zap away anyways. Then she cheers up and says that she'll diet tomorrow. But then Sabrina has to ruin things by zapping up loud music. Stella tells her she's a disgrace to witches everywhere, but at this point I'm on her side, until she starts lecturing her that she should be evil again. She says a witch is supposed to deal in pranks and annoyances. If it weren't for the fact that Sabrina didn't do any of that on purpose this story, I'd say that she did deal in pranks and annoyances. And even if she didn't, the fact remains that this is exactly what Della would suffer through if she did deal in pranks. Oh, she's supposed to drive people up the wall, but not do that to her. Ambrose tells Della that she looks like a volcano about to erupt, and Sabrina's done a great witching job on her. At least someone pointed it out. It's basically what I was saying, and it's interesting that Sabrina's happy about this. The first story is about Sabrina finding out the carnival games are rigged and using magic to make Harvey win every single one. And fortunately, it's all worth it because they give the prizes to orphans. They should have had to find the orphanage themselves though. It was cheesy and ridiculous that they just happened to find some right in front of the carnival. My least favorite thing about this was the jerk Harvey competed with. The second story is a story that Della would be proud of, where Sabrina abuses her magic against girls to keep Harvey dating her. That's just one step better than outright forcing him to date her with magic. But Della complains about her in the third story anyways, instead of congratulating her, since she still does good deeds with her powers. It was interesting and relatable, until the very end where she went too far and got no comeuppance. And the third story is about Sabrina wasting too much of her time with exaggerated slang to annoy Della about how much she's like the other teens. The slang part should have been much shorter because I got it in 2 panels. It felt forced that she talked that much without being interrupted or pausing so someone else could talk. And it seemed out of character, especially because she was too comfortable and happy around Della, who she should be scared of.